let's unpack this. Life throws curveballs at everyone.
Yeah.
And yeah, the news recently had some pretty unexpected challenges for public figures. That headline about Mary Lou Retton especially, that really prompted you to send over this stack of sources for a deep dive.
And what a collection it is. These sources really cover quite a spectrum of difficulties, from recent legal issues to some really significant and varied health scares.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Seeing familiar names navigating things like serious illness or, well, unforeseen legal situations. So our mission for this deep dive is to really dig into these sources you sent, pull out the essential details, and try to understand what these specific instances tell us about the challenges even highly visible people faced, often under, intense scrutiny.
Exactly. It's about looking beyond just the headlines, getting into the actual experiences and the details shared in the material you provided.
So let's jump right into the event that kind of sparked this particular deep dive, starting with Mary Lou Retton. The sources lead with a recent legal challenge she faced.
They do. According to court records from West Virginia, Mary Lou Retton was arrested back on May 17th.
May 17th of this year, 2025. What were the specifics there?
She was charged with one count, described as driving under influence of alcohol, controlled substances, or drugs, penalties. The court documents note she was issued a personal recognizance bond for $1,500, which she apparently posted the same day. This information really became more public through an e-news article published May 27th, 2025.
Right, so that's the recent legal issue.
Right.
But the sources immediately connect this back to that very serious health crisis she went through, less than 2 years ago?
A truly life-threatening one, yeah. In the fall of 2023, she battled a really severe form of pneumonia. It was so critical that she spent over a week in the ICU.
Wow.
And needed assistance just to breathe.
I remember reports about her family sharing updates then. Her daughter, McKenna Kelly, was quite active, wasn't she?
She was very. McKenna provided updates and also started a Spot Funder fundraiser. She let people know her mom was, quote, fighting for her life.
And a detail that really stood out then, and is highlighted in your sources, was the fact that Mary Lou was uninsured.
Uninsured, yeah.
The fundraiser was explicitly asking for help with what they knew would be substantial medical bills. McKenna emphasized anything, absolutely anything, would be so helpful for my family and my mom.
Uninsured while critically ill in the ICU, that just adds such a difficult layer, doesn't it, to an already awful situation. The sources also mentioned Mary Lou later talking about the public reaction and some of the backlash the crowdfunding got.
Yes, she did. In May 2024, she spoke about it publicly. She was very protective of her daughter, saying clearly they didn't deserve that.
Yeah.
She acknowledged the reality of public opinion, saying there are trolls everywhere and kind of it is what it is. She also gave some perspective on the financial side, mentioning that months after her month-long ICU stay, the bills were still coming in.
Still arriving. Wow.
Yeah, and that people can't imagine the expense.
And she credited her family so much for getting her through it all. Absolutely. She was really emphatic, saying things like, you're welcome to your opinion, but you weren't in that situation. She credited her daughters directly. My daughters stepped up to the plate, and they saved my life, and all the love and support saved my life. It really highlights that contrast, the deeply personal experience versus the very public scrutiny.
Okay, so shifting from that intersection of legal challenges and past health crises for Mary Lou Retton, the sources you gave us also compiled a number of other examples, public figures dealing with unexpected health issues. Looking across these, we can start to see some patterns, maybe, types of challenges people face.
We definitely can. For instance, several accounts detail sudden, really acute medical events that needed immediate attention.
Like Brian Austin Green earlier this year. Was that one?
Exactly, yeah. In April 2025, he revealed he was recovering from surgery for a perforated appendix. He described a sudden stomach pain that sent him straight to the ER.
Oh, wow.
Found it was basically on the verge of bursting. He called it his first major surgery and mentioned it wasn't exactly an easy recovery path.
And sometimes these things just come completely out of the blue, like Matt Kirschenheiter's experience.
That's right. The sources note that Matt Kirschenheiter, who many know from Real Housewives, actually suffered a heart attack in March 2025.
Oh, my gosh.
Thankfully, he survived that acute event. Or Tracy Morgan, who had that health scare at a Knicks game, also in March 2025.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that. He was reportedly wheeled out.
He was, yeah. But it turned out to be severe food poisoning. He quickly updated on social media that he was okay recovering, What's kind of striking about these is just how suddenly physical health can take a turn, often completely without warning.
Absolutely. Okay, another category we seem to see in the sources involves physical injuries, right? Resulting from external events, sometimes really unexpected ones.
That's certainly true for Casey Fitzgerald, the hockey player.
A very frightening incident, that one on the ice.
Yeah. In December 2024, he got a neck injury from a sight blade during a game. It needed 25 stitches. His father, who's the New Jersey Devils GM, later told ESPN after Casey recovered that they felt very lucky, which, given the potential severity.
Understandable. And Christy Carlson Romano shared a really startling story, too.
Yeah, that was intense. In February 2025, she was on a trip and was accidentally shot in the face by a clay pigeon fragment fired unsafely by someone else.
Face? What?
Hit in 5 places. One fragment actually lodged less than an inch from her right eye. She shared on Instagram that removing it surgically is too risky, though thankfully she sees normally right now. She just expressed immense gratitude for surviving, saying it felt like her life flashed before her eyes.
Unbelievable. And then there's Adam Devine, whose experience really highlights the long-term impact of a childhood injury.
His story, yeah, shared on a podcast in 2025 is quite powerful. Adam Devine is still dealing with the aftermath of being hit by a cement truck when he was just 11 years old.
Oh.
He described it as a nightmare that left him with ongoing spasms and pain. And incredibly, he shared that doctors actually told him he was dying literally within this last year because of complications from those old injuries.
Oh, my goodness.
It really shows how some physical challenges aren't just single events, they can have this persistent, lifelong impact.
Wow, that's incredibly heavy. Okay, so moving from those sudden incidents and injuries, a large portion of the sources you sent detail individuals navigating more complex health issues, diagnosed conditions, often needing longer treatment or recovery.
That's a significant theme, definitely. We see several instances involving neurological events, for example.
Like Hailey Bieber and Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
That was around 2022, right?
Yes, remarkably within months of each other. In March 2022, Hailey experienced stroke-like symptoms while she was just having breakfast with Ma. Justin suddenly couldn't speak, facial drooping. Yeah. At the hospital, scans confirmed a small blood clot to her brain, a TIA, transient ischemic attack. Later, they found out she had a PFO, a patent foramen oval, basically a small hole in her heart.
A hole in her heart.
Yeah, through which the clot had likely traveled. She had a successful procedure to close that PFO and reported feeling much better afterwards.
And then Justin's diagnosis followed not long after.
Right. In June 2022, Justin Bieber was diagnosed with Ramsay-Hunt syndrome. It's caused by a virus that affects facial nerves. He showed on Instagram the paralysis on one side of his face, couldn't blink properly, couldn't smile fully, or move his nostril on that side. He even mentioned it impacted his ability to eat. Fortunately, the paralysis was temporary, and Hailey later confirmed he was recovering well.
And Jamie Foxx's severe health crisis in 2023 was also neurological, wasn't it? Though details were scarce initially.
It was, and very private at first. Sources detailing his experience, including a 2024 Netflix special he did, explain that in April 2023, a severe headache just escalated quickly, led to him losing consciousness. A second hospital visit revealed a brain bleed that actually caused a stroke.
Wow.
He shared that he doesn't remember about 20 days, woke up in a wheelchair, needed extensive rehab. He credits prayers strongly with his survival.
Emilia Clarke's story, which she shared in that powerful 2019 essay, is also about surviving a stroke from an aneurysm. But her medical journey sounds incredibly complex.
Her experience started back in 2011 with a subarachnoid hemorrhage from a ruptured aneurysm at the gym. She ended up enduring multiple brain surgeries. One even failed, requiring further intervention where they had to access through her skull.
Oh my gosh.
She also dealt with aphasia during her recovery difficulty with language. Her description of the excruciating pain and the repeated procedures is just harrowing. It makes her report of now being at 100%, as she put it, truly remarkable.
Absolutely. And Snoop Dogg's daughter, Corey Broaddus, experienced a stroke more recently, and it was complicated by existing conditions.
That's right. In January 2024, Corey Broaddus had what she termed a severe stroke. She later told E! News, toward the end of that year, that her underlying health issues, she has lupus and was dealing with failing kidneys, meant she needed a longer hospital stay.
Right.
While she's still recovering motor skills, she reported she was doing great, all things considered. These cases really highlight how something like a stroke can manifest so differently and require really varied recovery paths, sometimes intersecting with other chronic health issues.
Amy Schumer's health issue is an interesting example, too. A diagnosed condition, but with a kind of surprising cause mentioned in the sources.
It really is. In January 2025, after there was public commentary about her appearance online, including doctors actually suggesting Cushing's syndrome.
Doctors online, wow.
Yeah. Amy realized her puffier face was a symptom. The sources explained she'd been getting steroid injections for scars from prior surgeries like breast reduction and a C-section. Unexpectedly, these injections triggered Cushing's syndrome.
Caused by the injections.
Exactly. She shared on the Call Her Daddy podcast that finding out it was a type of Cushing's that would resolve on its own and that she was otherwise healthy was just this immense relief. It shows how sometimes even treatments themselves can lead to unexpected health challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and finally, Shailene Woodley spoke about a really long-term, complex health struggle from her earlier life.
Yeah, on a podcast in September 2024, she detailed this decade-long battle she went through in her early 20s. It started around 2014, roughly. She didn't name a specific condition, but described these really debilitating symptoms, losing her hearing at times, significant difficulty walking, chronic stomach pain.
For a decade.
A decade-long battle, yeah. She saw multiple doctors, got differing ideas. Coming from a background that included exploring alternative approaches, she ended up working with both conventional MDs and healers, just searching for a path back to health. She talked openly about the toll it took, not just physically, but mentally, leading to issues like fear of food, body dysmorphia. The good news she shared was that the journey ultimately led her to becoming, in her words, very healthy. Her story really emphasizes that some health challenges aren't sudden. They're prolonged, complex battles with both physical and mental dimensions.
So looking across all these accounts we've just touched on, from Mary Lou Retton's legal and health challenges to these sudden medical events, the injuries, these more complex diagnosed conditions, what these sources collectively show us, I think, is just the sheer unpredictability and the diversity of challenges that public figures face. It really drives home that regardless of status or visibility, that vulnerability to life's difficulties is just, well, it's a shared human experience, isn't it?
It really is. That vulnerability comes through so clearly in many of these stories.
And it's incredible how much detail is available just in these few sources you provided, pulled from interviews, social media posts, news reports. It certainly highlights how quickly information about personal struggles, particularly for well-known people, can spread and be consumed today.
Absolutely. The speed and depth of sharing is quite something.
So here's something to think about, maybe for you listening. How does the fact that these struggles are so publicly shared, through Instagram posts, detailed interviews, news reports, how does that change your perception of public figures compared to, say, previous generations, where this level of detail might have stayed private or been very tightly managed? It definitely makes you think about that evolving boundary, doesn't it, between public life and private hardship.